All right, peace and blessings. Appreciate anybody taking the time out to listen to me run my mouth. I definitely appreciate that opportunity. Today, I'm gonna jump right into it. What? No, let me say this first. I got to get used to saying this. Anybody that's trying to support or be a part of anything to help promote what I'm trying to do for the Most High, at the very minimum, just like, subscribe, and share, and that's a start for me. Uh, but with that being said, we're going to jump straight into it. Today, we're going to talk about the virtuous woman. And this is going to go in the series of the household, as far as like, we started with the humble and upright man. Now we're going to do the virtuous woman. And when they come together, that promotes marriage, but an honorable marriage in the eyes of the Most High, which we'll do that in the next lesson in this series. And then after that, we'll get into the children. And everything we do is going to be biblically speaking. It's not going to be my opinion and what I think about it. We're going to read the Bible and let the Bible clearly tell you what the Lord is saying about the men, the women, the marriage, and the children. So we got the men out of the way, but we need our women to be righteous as well. So we're going to start it off in Genesis 3:16 with the virtuous woman. Genesis 3:16. All right. And to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So this is a decree from the Lord on what's going to happen and what he expects out of the woman. Because in the garden, everybody sinned. The serpent, the woman, and the man. So everybody got their own punishment. And then after the punishment, he also redirected them to the position or place that they are supposed to be in. So on another lesson, when we deal with the garden, we'll go into Genesis 3 and break down everything that happened. But just for today, we understand that, okay, now we're dealing with the woman's portion. And it says, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. So when a woman is dealing with conception and bringing forth children, as the scriptures say, there's going to be some conflict. It's not going to be as easy going as it would have. And we understand there's a lot of things that's tied to this, but I'm not trying to go so deep today. What I want to focus on today is that portion was the punishment, and then he redirected her to where she was supposed to be. After he gave her that, he says, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So he had to go ahead and let her know, look, this is where your desire should be. This is everything that you do as a woman should be centered around this man. I know in today's time, women don't want to hear that, but that's why we are the way we are. We have been Americanized. We have a Western world mindset in which everything is about freedom and equality, but that is not what the Bible is about. The Bible does not promote freedom and equality for all. The Bible promotes whatever it says. So we have to take the time to see what it says. This is not to degrade a woman, nor is it to promote a man. This is why we did the man's lesson first, so that we could see the position that he's supposed to be in and where he went wrong. So understanding that, we can't get upset about what's in the Bible. We got to get upset with God. So if you're upset with God, that's a personal issue. Got nothing to do with me. If you go accept what it is, then you don't have to be upset with God. You can just say, well, look, let's move forward from here. And that's what we intend to do. So why did he have to tell her that? Well, remember, the woman left out from under her covering dealing with the man. And she went to go seek some type of spiritual knowledge from that tree, that serpent, which we know, according to Revelations 12, was none other than Satan the devil. Now, when she went to seek knowledge from the devil, she did not know that she was seeking knowledge from the devil. And that is how tricky and deceptive he is. When we are seeking information, we must understand the source. Where is it coming from? And does it oppose God? See, he gave her something that opposed God, and she took it because she desired everything he was saying with it. So he told her, look, from now on, your desire need to be all about your husband, because when you stepped out there on your own, look at you. And I hate to say this, but look at our women today that say they don't need a man, that want to be independent. They're seeking everything on their own. And then look at the children and the outcome. Now, is the blame on the woman? Definitely not totally, because we understand that it starts with the man, the head of the house, which is why we're doing this segment. So we're going to pick it up and we're going to see what is expected out of the virtuous woman. Let's get Ephesians 5 and 22. Ephesians 5 and 22. All right. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. Now, if you start right here, which most people do when they're teaching this, it sounds like, the focus is all about the wife submitting. And yes, the wife does have to submit. But what a lot of brothers don't teach when we're talking about these things is the man does too. So you're both submitting. So you have to see how it submit, how it say submit. So we're gonna stay right where we at, but instead of starting in 22, let's start at 20. It says, giving thanks always for all things unto God and the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. So you submit one to another. Both sides submit. The man submit and the woman submit. It's not about, oh, my wife have to be submissive. No, we both have to be submissive. Let's see how. So now he starts with the wives and tell them what it is that they want to do. See, reading is fundamental. If we just continue to read, we understand exactly what the Lord wants from both sides. He says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. So he just handled the wives, right? And he told them, look, you got to let your husband lead you. Your man has to be the leader. This is how you submit to him. You submit to him the same way that you would submit to Christ, which is under a spiritual authority, letting him lead and guide you. Now, if he's telling you something to do and it's going against Christ, you don't follow that, because you're only following him through Christ. I've seen people say some of the craziest stuff about if a man say this, a woman got to do it. Nah. It's got to be righteous. It can't be sin. Let me rephrase that, because somebody will say, well, look, if he say, fix me a plate, I ain't got to fix the plate because that ain't righteous. It actually is righteous, but let's clear it up. You can't ask anybody to do something that's sin and expect them to do it in the name of the Most High, saying that this is what they're supposed to do. That's what we really getting from this. So then he says, listen, therefore, as the church is subject to Christ. So just like the church got to listen to Christ, and the church is there as the service for Christ, the wife listens to the husband in everything and is there to service the husband in every way. Then he jumps into the husbands. This is why I say you got to start at verse 20 so you can see that they submit to each other. Or some brothers will read this to their wives and take off. They won't read the next portion. We're going to read it though. Verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for. So as a man, now this is how you submit to your wife. You have to be willing to die for her. That's a great submission, right? But that's the same thing that Christ did for his wife, the church, which we know the church is not some organization set up by man, yet the church are the people, Israel. Whole nother lesson, but just so we understand what and who we're talking about the marriage of Christ and Israel in comparison to a husband and a wife. And so when you see that the husband got to love the wife to the point that he'll die for her, that is his way of showing how he's going to submit. To submit means to come up under somebody, right? That's what sub is, right? So you are giving that submission. You're saying, listen, you got it. Let me come up under you. Let me be of your service. And so Christ did that by dying for the church. So as a man, if you want your wife to submit to you, but you know this ain't a woman that you would die for, that's wrong. Because what you're doing now, it's out of order. You are picking and choosing what you want to do versus what she has to do. Let's keep reading though. It says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot nor wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So that is the purpose of her submitting to you, so that you can get her to where she needs to be spiritually, so that you can present her as that spiritual virgin, so that you could present her as that church that's glorious without spot nor wrinkle. Now, this is important because she gets to Christ through you. You get to the Father through Christ. It's a whole chain of commands. So this is why the way that it's supposed to be done, when a man finds a woman and she is a virgin, he was supposed to go to her father and say, listen, I need permission. And we'll touch more about that when we do the marriage lesson, but I need permission to have your daughter. Because a part of that permission is the father is giving up his authority to the husband. He's passing it on. This is your responsibility now, son. Take my daughter and do well. That's what it's about. But see, we so out of order now, we don't even care what the parents think. We do whatever we want to do. But then get mad and want to throw the Bible up in somebody's face when it's not going right. This is how it's supposed to be. See, that man, the reason it's like that, that man know how he raised his daughter. So he know what type of man will have certain types of influence on his daughter because he know his daughter. And if that man is in tune with God, he know who he's giving his daughter to take over that responsibility. So when you're talking about cleaning, sanctifying and cleaning your wife with that word, just as that father was teaching that young woman growing up into adulthood, now that she's your wife and she's a grown adult, you are taking over that task to the next level. So it requires a woman to submit herself as unto the Lord, and that's what it means. So that just like the Lord would teach you, you got to allow your husband to teach you. But as the husband, just as if you allow the Lord to teach you and you become his, he'll die for you. You have to have that same type of treatment for her. Let's keep going though. Let's 28. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourished and cherished it, even as the Lord the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. You know, when Adam got married to Eve, what did he say? Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Later on, we seen that just meant family. This is my family. We are one in body. So when the scriptures say men ought to love their wives as their own bodies, he that love his wife love himself. Remember, Christ, we make up the body of Christ, but he is the head of the body, and he loves his body. So he don't do certain things to his body. That's all we're saying here. All right, 31. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. So understanding that when we're talking about a virtuous woman, we got to understand she has to be able to submit to a God-fearing man in order for her to fully get what God needs. You got a lot of women won't do that, and they out here becoming pastors and teachers and all these things outside of God's calling and outside of his will, outside of the Bible. And then we wonder why the world is the way that it is. You cannot blame the children. The children are a product of the household, which is the man and the woman. Let's keep going though. Let's get 1 Peter 3 and 1. 1 Peter 3 and 1. All right. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. This is big right here. This is big time. So this is how important a virtuous woman is. When the man is out of order, a woman that will subject herself, which is that same root word or prefix sub, which is under, she's coming under him. So when she will subject herself, when he don't obey, she's still there holding down the foundation, right? Because if you're subject or if you sub anything, you're on the bottom, right? Where's the foundation at? The bottom. Women make up a huge foundation in the marriage. They represent a lot of stuff. They bring a whole lot of the emotional, a whole lot of the spiritual, a lot of things like that women bring in. Men represent the head, right? So they bring in the logic, the decision making, the thinking. Not saying we can't take from one from another. But as far as how it's set up, we see when you put them together, you are supposed to be able to have a dominant team to the point that, as these scriptures just said, when the husband obey not the word, and he done went off to the left, the wife can keep saying the right stuff. That's why it says by the conversation of the wives. And she can win him back over. For example, Job had a lot of stuff going on. He could have went off on the deep end. And when it got real bad, and Job was like, man, I don't know what I did. This is crazy. What did his wife say? This is that conversation. The wife said, you should curse God and die. That didn't sound like a virtuous statement. Say he had listened. Say he had listened. So this is why it's important for you to get you a virtuous woman. Let's look at this though. It says by the conversation of the wives, right? Going back to Genesis 3:16 in the garden. Eve went and had the conversation. She left her subjection as she left being up under Adam and went out and was dealing with the serpent, right? The devil. She took that conversation from another being, man, entity, whatever you want to call it, and she brought that philosophy back to the house, and it cost all of it. This is how important the woman is, and that conversation to win the man back over, it shows you why it's just that important. Verse 2. While they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear, whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair and of wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God a great price. So when things get bad, as a woman, stay cool, stay in your place, stay virtuous, stay who he called you to be. Stay that woman that made him say, I want to be with you. Because that puts everything back on the man. That allows God to step up and say, you know what? Let me fight your battle. I got this Negro. He want to act crazy. I can get crazy too. But a lot of times what happens, the man get crazy and the woman get crazy too. And now God don't have a place to step in because you fighting God's battle as the woman. It's not your job to go up against your husband. It's not your job to oppose or fight your husband in any way. It's your job to uphold, uplift, and protect your king. And when he won't allow you to do that, you have another king, a king of all kings that you can go to. And he'll show up and visit that man as long as you will allow it. Now, just touching on some things so there's no confusion. It's not saying that the woman can't have plaited hair or wear gold. What is or putting on apparel? Of course, you can put on clothes. What it's saying is these things cannot make you who you are. This should not be what drives you. This should not be what makes you make your decisions. If y'all supposed to be going to a holy convocation and you an hour late because you had to get dressed and wear this and wear that, you got the wrong mindset. You're coming for the wrong reason. When you're dealing with the Most High, he don't care about your apparel. He don't care about your gold. He don't care about your hair. He wants that inward man And we know that because it says the hidden man of the heart. Let's pick it up at 5. For after this manner, in the old time, now anytime we see in the old time, usually we're talking about Old Testament. It says the holy women also. Now we're talking about holy women of the Old Testament who trusted in God, adorned themselves being in subjection unto their own husband. So when you adorn yourself, that's what you put on. That's what you make up. That's how you what you do to beautify yourself. And what they did to beautify themselves or to adorn themselves would show how much in subjection to their husbands they could be. Could you imagine the women of today being almost in competition with each other on who could be the most virtuous, who could honor and listen to their husband the most? So I know, sounds unheard of, right? But that's what we got to get back to. Verse 6. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as you do well and are not afraid with any amazement. So he's saying, listen, just like Sarah obeyed Abraham to the point she called him Lord, not Lord as far as the Most High or God. Lord just means master. So she was serving him. She had enough understanding to know I am in subjection to him, just like I have to be in subjection to the Most High. So this is my Lord. Not that she should pray to him, because we're supposed to pray to the Father anyway. So understanding that that's the type of respect she had for him. Now I know sisters today have been like, I ain't finna listen to no man like that. But you gotta understand, the man that you get, the man that you choose, that's who you gotta listen to. This is why we teach on our daughters now, right? That we can't just give you to any old man, because we can't honor or uphold the excuse that that man ain't righteous enough to receive what you're supposed to give him when you made a decision to give it to him at one point in time. So make sure the man that you are choosing to be with is a man of God. That's why the first lesson is humble, upright man. Learn what it takes to make the kingdom. Learn what it takes to keep God's law, statutes, and commandments. Learn what it takes to be set apart. Learn what it takes to be called holy and righteous. Because see, if women took the time out to figure out those things, then when a man come along that don't fit those things, she could easily dismiss him and say, nah, you're not the one for me, brother. Let me keep moving. You know why? Because she could see her man in the scriptures. If you look at your man and you don't see the scriptures, that's a problem. Vice versa, as a woman, if you look at your husband and you can't see the scriptures, that is a problem. So as a virtuous woman, you got to know your job and his job, your role and his role, so that you can identify when it's out of order. Let's get verse 7. Likewise, I like that word right there. A lot of brothers don't like that likewise because they know what comes next. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one of another. Love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous, not rendering evil for evil or railing for railing, but contrariwise blessing, knowing that ye are thereunto called, that you should inherit a blessing. So this is what you do if you want your marriage to inherit a blessing. You can't go tit for tat back and forth with each other. You can't do that. You gotta be of one mind, right? Let's touch on that. One mind. Where's your mind located? In your head, right? Well, who is the head? The head is the man. So you got to have one head in a relationship. So if she trying to be the head and he trying to be the head, you got a two-headed monster. That's not going to work. She has to allow him to be the head. She has to. But if she want to make sure she's allowing herself to follow the right head, she has to make sure that she understands these scriptures also. Start getting some understanding before you jump into a situation and say yes. Let's look at this right here. Dwell according to knowledge. That's what he told the husbands to do, right? Well, you get your knowledge out of the Bible. So if you're going to dwell or live according to knowledge, you got to live with your woman based on what the Bible is saying. So women, you got to make sure that you choose a man that is going to do that. And then it says, giving honor into the weaker vessel. A vessel is what's used to carry something, right? So men are the stronger vessel, women are the weaker vessel. That doesn't mean a woman don't have a job to do. She's still a vessel. She is just not as strong as he is as that vessel because he has a greater calling with when it comes to the vessel. So he has to understand, look, certain things she not gonna be able to do. I gotta do that. But she gotta understand as that virtuous woman, there's certain things that are above me, and I gotta let my husband and the Most High sort that out. That's not my place. I am a vessel, but I am the weaker vessel. So I have to be in my place so that whenever it's too much for his vessel to hold, and you got stuff, you got that whatever the vessel was carrying coming out now. Now she has a vessel that can catch that extra because she is there to support him. Let's get Titus 2 and 3. Titus 2 and 3. All right. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. So when you don't do these things as a woman, that blasphemes the word of God because the word tell you to do this. And you saying you represent the Most High as a woman, but you won't do these things. That's blasphemy. So it say aged women because it takes experience. That's all age means. It just means experience. This is a woman who has some experience in dealing with the Most High as a wife and as a mother and as a sister to other women. So when she got that aged experience, she could teach them how to be. Look, this is how you deal with your husband in these situations. Okay, you need to be sober. It's all right if you're gonna have your drink, but you need to stay sober because you don't know what you're gonna do when you're not. You need to be discreet. Don't put your business out there. It's not everybody's business what's going on in your home. Sometimes it's not the business of the person you telling. Because if you're not telling somebody righteous, what you expecting to get back in return? Look what go on in your house. If you got to reach out to another sister that can represent this same thing, an aged woman. Don't put your business out there to somebody just because you need a vent. That person might not like you. That person might be a pretender and ready to give all your information out. That's the way that life goes. So an aged woman is teaching these younger women these things because women have to have an outlet. This is not easy for women to do. This is an adjustment for women just like it's an adjustment for men. So they got to have that person to talk to, but they got to choose the right person. Finally, in this, what I wanted to touch on was where it says obedient to their own husbands. That's important because you got a lot of women today, they're not going to be obedient to their own husbands. They'll listen to somebody else's man. For example, the greatest example I can show you, women that go to church and say, well, the pastor said. They'll look at their husband and say, well, the pastor said this. Your husband is your pastor. You're supposed to be listening to your husband, and your husband's supposed to be the one getting this understanding from God. We can see that all through the scriptures. This is not saying a woman can't listen to someone else if her husband says it's cool. But see, what that statement I just made, oh, women are log off. Right now, they probably gonna hit the X button. But that's the problem. We can't take what God is giving. God is giving. This ain't me. We're just seeing. Learn from your own husbands, right? So if you love your own husband and you obedient or listen to your own husband, and another man tell you to do something, nah, you can't do that. You got to check back with your husband. If your husband tell you that's wrong and you feel like your husband is wrong, then you take it to the Most High. But you can't just say, well, I'm going to do what another person told me to do, and then turn around and call this man your husband because you're not treating him as a husband. Once again, if you don't want to worry about that, make sure when you pick your husband, you know what you're doing. Let's stay, you know what? Now, let's go to 1 Timothy 5. 1 Timothy 5, I got to get this. 1 Timothy 5 and 13. All right? And withal, they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. See, this is what causes problems. This right here what destroy other people's lives. When you got somebody who want to go house to house, meaning family to family, person to person, and you taking in all the gossip because, like what I just said a second ago, women are pouring out to whoever will listen, but the wrong person is listening. And now they just being busybodies and tattlers, and they putting all that information out all over the place. Now you have embarrassed your home because when your man do find out, it's the wrong way. Somebody up the street done told him, yeah, your wife said this, that, and the third. I know, I mean, that's what my wife said. Oh, my wife telling your wife that. Oh, no, well, she told somebody else, and she told my wife. It's too much. These are the things that destroy relationships, not just man and woman relationships, but just in general. So we got to make sure that we got to stay on top of that. If you got to talk to somebody, let it be another God-fearing person, well, woman. You really shouldn't be talking to another man about your problems anyway. That's a whole nother situation we'll get to, though. Let's get 1 Timothy 2 and 9. 1 Timothy 2 and 9. All right. In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly array. Now, what are we talking about here? Because once again, it looks like it's telling a woman how she ought to dress or not to dress. Now, is this saying you can't wear any of these things? Not at all. But I just read that part to show you how if you don't read the whole thing and get the context, then you will miss what's going on. So let's start a verse, just one verse above that. And it says, I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubt. So now we're talking about in a setting in which men are going to be praying and lifting up holy hands. This is like some type of holy convocation, a church, if you want to call it that, whatever, however you want to, categorize it. This is when we're meeting up for the Most High. So when we're meeting up for the Most High, there's a certain way that you ought to carry yourself as a woman. And that's why it says in like manner also, meaning we still talking about the same thing, but now we're talking about the women. That you dress yourselves modest. Meaning modest is basically like in humility. Be humble. Show some shame. You know what I mean? If you ain't got no shame in the world, how people say no shame in my game, you'll do anything. Don't show up to one of these functions drunk. Be in sobriety, which means when you get there, stay in sobriety. If you're going to have a drink, understand how much you can have because you don't want to go outside of these scriptures because what happens is you're not looked at as virtuous, but you may be, but you're not going to be looked at that way because somebody will say, yeah, we got together for a little church function. Yeah, she got drunk. She was done. Or she showed up with everything showing and hanging out. Or she showed up and she had so much gold and pearls and high dollar stuff on that she stole the show. Now the whole focus or attention is on her. But that's the problem. We do stuff for attention, but this is not the time for if you are to try to be a virtuous woman. When you are doing something that pertains to the Most High, do it with all humility and in modesty. All right. Let's keep going. Have to say that today because, man, the church is a fashion show. Deuteronomy 22:5. All right. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all that do so are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. So that's simple. As a man, as a woman, you don't wear what a man wear. As a man, you don't wear what a woman wear. We're not talking about pants. Men and women wear pants. Even in the Bible, men wore skirts. What we're saying is you don't try to dress yourself to present yourself as the opposite sex. Meaning, I'm a guy, but I'm about to try to dress up like a woman. Or I'm a woman, but I'm going to try to dress up and make myself look like a man. We don't do that. There's no way you can be a virtuous woman walking around looking like a man. Don't make no sense. 1 Corinthians 7:10. 1 Corinthians 7:10. All right. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife. Now remember, we're talking about a virtuous woman. So this is how you have to go about it. I've heard people falsely teach this too, and they say, well, a woman can leave, but if she leave, that just means she can't be with nobody else. She got to be with her husband if she's going to be with somebody. That is not what this is saying. Nowhere in this does it say that a woman can leave. It actually starts off, let's do it again, because for some reason, reading is fundamental, but we not fundamentally sound with our reading sometimes. Let's take our time. Unto the married woman. So this is the married woman we're talking to. Yet not I, so this is not Paul, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband. That is what the Lord is commanding her to do. That's simple. We stop right there. We're not going to get nothing else yet. Let's stop right there. What did the Lord say? Not Paul, but what did the Lord say? Let not the wife depart from her husband. She cannot leave her husband. That's clear. So now that we got the Lord's commandment out of the way, what he just commanded her not to do, what we're going to do is see what happens if she feels the need to go anyway. It says, and if she depart, not the Lord told her to, if she depart, let her remain unmarried. So listen, you already weren't supposed to leave. But if you do leave, you better stay unmarried, because technically you're still married to this man that you was not supposed to leave. It says, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. You know why he can't put her away? Because just like she wasn't supposed to leave, he's not supposed to put her away. That's synonymous. They go together. This is why if she want to come back, he's supposed to take her back, because her leaving is not leaving the marriage. That's just her moving and leaving the house, or I'm going to go stay in another state, or whatever the case may be. That's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's your decision. The Lord told you not to do it. So that's already one strike. And if you be with another man and marry somebody else, that's another strike. Verse 12. But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. If any brother have a wife that believe not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him put her away. This is the confusing part right here. Because now, which I'm going to clear it up, but now we get ready to see where Paul is going to say what seems to be the opposite. It says, and the woman which has a husband that believe not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. Now I agree. One person can sanctify the other and bring about some holiness. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. But we getting ready to get to where the problem come in. That was what, 14? Let me see. So let's get 15. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. That doesn't mean it's okay to depart. That doesn't mean God said, if you're an unbeliever, you can depart. We already read where God said she ain't supposed to leave. And you know he can't leave because it told him that but he got to take her back if she leaves. But now we're talking about, because Paul got enough understanding to know people going to do what they want to do anyway. So now he's giving you, if you don't listen to this, you better do it like this. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God has called us to peace. So what he's saying is, look, I understand some situations are unbearable. So if you're going to leave, if a person's going to leave, don't try to physically stop him or her, because we are all called to be peaceful. You don't put your hands on somebody to make them stay. You don't stand in front of the door. You got to go through me. That's what Paul is saying. That's why he's saying if they're going to depart, let them depart. Don't be in the way. Because what happens is a brother or a sister will be under bondage. Why? Because you are not being peaceful. You are trying to stop them from doing something, which usually leads to even more turmoil. What he's saying is we are called to peace. Move out of the way and let them make their decision. Because we all have liberty in Christ to make whatever decision we want to. But he already told you from the top that it was bad, right? But people teach this so crazy and make it seem like you can do these things. So let's go back up to verse 12. Verse 11 actually said, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled. Then it says, he gets ready to get into this dissertation that we just actually read about, if the unbelieving husband want to leave and they sanctify. But what did he say first? But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. This is advice from a wise man, and we respect it. This is not the word of God now. He's telling you, this speak I, not the Lord. Why is he specifying that? Because it's not law. Also, that's number one. The other reason he's specifying that is because the first thing that he said earlier was this is how he said, this is not me, but this is the Lord. Right? Let me find that. Let me make sure I want to make sure we on the same page. Verse 10. And to the married, because we're talking about the married now. And to the married, I command. But he made sure he cleared it up. Yet not I. So I'm telling you, but it's not coming from me, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart. He told you what the Lord said. But then he understood people going to do what they want to do. So in verse 15, no, in verse 12, then he says, well, this is not the Lord. This is just my advice for those that don't want to listen to the Lord. Totally different. So when you're talking about a virtuous woman, it starts with listening to the Lord. A virtuous woman shouldn't even be down here worrying about this second part that Paul talking about. Because he said, oh, this is my advice. But who is he giving the advice to? Either the unbeliever or the person dwelling with the unbeliever when it's talking about leaving. But if you are dealing with the Lord, you ain't supposed to leave regardless, one way or the other, man or woman. I believe it's pretty clear. He's making it clear. This is the Lord. This ain't the Lord. This is just me. Too easy. Too easy. So whatever decisions you make, whether you're man, woman, virtuous, whatever you are, make sure that you look at what the Bible says and make sure you understand what the Lord is saying. All right, let's get Jeremiah 31 and 22. 31 and 22. All right. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? Talk about Israel. For the Lord has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. So now at this point, we are definitely living in these times where a woman has compassed a man. So why is this important? Because this is out of order. But the Lord allowed it because the men kept backsliding and tripping. So he said, all right, I'm going to let the women take over. just because he knows how out of order that is, that will drive us back to the Most High. Just like another scripture says, children are your oppressors. No, and they rule over you. Children are your oppressors and women rule over you. It ain't supposed to be that way. But it is that way now because we are out of order. So when he calls us back to order, we got to think, this is not how it's supposed to be. So we know how to fix it. Proverbs 12 and 4. Proverbs 12 and 4. All right. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing that feels better than a virtuous woman treating you like a king. That is a crown to a man. That's going to make you feel like royalty. That's going to be inspiring, motivating. That's going to give you that extra But it's nothing worse than a woman that makes a man ashamed. When you shaming your husband, when he don't even want to be around you, when other people come around, ain't nothing worse than that, because that's like rottenness in his bones. You know, if your bones get rotten, they become brittle and break easy. And your bones is what give you stability. That's the foundation of your body. So I don't think it's ironic that the woman is the foundation, with a whole lot of stuff in the house. But just as rotten bones, a rotten woman would crumble a whole house. It's right here. It's right here. Let's get Jeremiah 3 and 20. I'm going to put this Jeremiah 3 and 20 in here because we were just talking about a woman leaving. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, she could leave as long as she don't be with nobody else, which we know now that is not what the Lord said. He said, don't leave. Now we're going to see what he says about it. Jeremiah 3 and 20. Surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have you dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, saith the Lord. So just like the Israelites, we was basically we left the Most High. We didn't want to deal with him. That was treacherous. It's just as treacherous as a woman saying she's not going to be with her husband no more, or she's not going to deal with her husband no more. That is treachery. This does not mean that it's all the woman's fault. A lot of times a man will drive a woman to that, or vice versa. A woman will drive a man to that. But see, here's the thing. That's one problem that's creating another. We got to deal with both of the problems. Why is this happening first, so we can fix that? Because if we can fix why it's happening, then we don't have to worry about somebody wanting to depart. Because a treacherous woman is the opposite of what this lesson is about. A virtuous woman. But he's letting you know, just like Israel did him, they went and turned their back on the Most High and did everything else under the sun, and then cried out to him when things go wrong. He's saying, basically, that's the same thing if a woman leave her man. So what we got to understand is, as men, don't put your woman in a position where she even thinking about leaving, because a lot of times she want to leave because of you. A woman has to be virtuous, but she's going to be virtuous through how you dealing with her. It's going to be hard for anybody to stay good in a bad situation. Let's just be realistic. So you can't call for your woman to be virtuous and put her through hell. That ain't going to make no sense there. Let's get 1 Corinthians 7 and 34. 7 and 34. Back to 1 Corinthians 7, 34. All right. There is difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman cares for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy, both in body and in spirit. But she that is married cares for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. This is a virtuous woman. A virtuous woman that is not married, she's trying to do everything she can for the Most High. So she's going to find some righteous brothers to come up under, let them lead and guide her if she's not under the leadership of her father. and she's going to serve the Most High with all she got. Once she become married, then she's going to care about the things in the world that her man got to deal with, because she is there as a defense mechanism for all the things that a man has to deal with. She's supporting him so that she can please him in every way. This is why it says, but she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. You got so many, I've seen it all my life. You got so many women that when they get to the point of marriage, they feel like they still got to go serve the Lord above their husband, without their husband. No, you serving the Lord now through your husband. You have to go and see, what do you need, husband, so that you can be the man that God has called you to be, because I am the helpmate. So if you helping me, that means I'm the person with the duty, and you the person that's helping me achieve it. So if you're going to be an honorable helpmate, a virtuous woman, then you can't tell me how to do my job. I can tell you where I need help at doing my job, and you find all the ways to knock out the world so that I don't have to deal with the world as much. I can deal with the spirit. I can deal with the Most High. So she's taking care of all the things in the world. I don't care how simple it is. I don't care how tough it is. That's her task. But you can't throw her into a task that you haven't prepared her for. And that is the problem. We want a woman to be virtuous, but we ain't taught her nothing. Let's get Isaiah 3 and 12. Isaiah 3 and 12. All right. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. See, these churches done led us into women being equal, and women being pastors, and women being leaders. And then they turn around and open up the Bible and tell you this is what God is saying. We're reading, this is not what God is saying. We need men in their rightful position. We need women in their rightful position. Because if everybody play their position, we can win the game. But when the worst person on the team say he want to be the quarterback and he want to throw it, and he throwing it to the person who can't catch at all, it's going to be hard to complete a pass. So we got to understand, the way that we look at things is not what matters. He's already set up a blueprint with guidelines on what to do and how to do it. But see, because we let these people lead us astray, now children are used to oppress us, and women have more power than us. But once that happened, the world has went downhill at a fast rate. But this ain't to knock the women. It's not their fault. They only doing what they feel like they need to do, because as men, we left a void position of fatherhood, leadership, shepherdship, and when you're talking about leading the flock or the community or the church. So they feel like, look, as women, we're going to step into that. But that is not virtuous. It's virtuous to get behind your husband and push him back into that. Let's get 1 Corinthians 11 and 1. We almost finished. We get there. 1 Corinthians 11 and 1. All right. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. So this is the order of things that we got to keep. So let's look at it. But I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered, dishonoreth her head. For that it is even all one if she were shaven. So he said, listen, we got the Father, the Son, which is Christ, the man, the woman, the children. This is the setup or hierarchy that the Most High has chosen. This ain't based on man. This ain't based on woman. This is based on what the Bible says. If you believe in the Bible, this is the way to go. Now, then he tells you, whenever you operating in the spiritual side of things, praying and prophesying, You can't have your head covered if you're a man, meaning you can't have no other man over you. You don't go through no man to get to Christ. You go straight to Christ. Look at the chart. Father, Son, Christ. You go straight to Christ. Now, as a woman, to tell you, you need to have your head covered. Why? Because you have a head. This head covering is not a physical thing, because we just read where it talked about the Father, the Son, the man, and the woman. That's order. That's power. That's the power right there. So when it's saying head covered and uncovered, a woman with her head uncovered, she's trying to go straight to Christ. She's not going through her father. She's not going through no husband. She's not going through no type of church sanction with some righteous brothers. She's just trying to go straight to Christ. She's not supposed to deal with it in that fashion, because the last time that she stepped out from up under the way that the Most High set it up, we all got cursed, because Adam took what she brought back to the table, and he was out of line. So to stay in line, he's saying let's deal with it this way. It's shameful if you don't want to have your head covered. Then it says, for if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But it is to be shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven. Let her be covered. So just as shameful as it is for a woman to shave her head, that's how shameful it should be for you to be calling yourself a virtuous woman and trying to go straight to Christ without dealing with man. Whether it be your father, whether it be your husband, or whether you have found some type of organization that is righteous brothers, the Most High sends you to. There's got to be some kind of way that you're dealing with them. Then it says, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. So the woman is not the image nor glory of God. She is the image or the glory of man. So as a man, you can't sit here and let another man dictate to you what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to let him show you what the scriptures say. You read these scriptures and you make your own decision as the man, because what is the man? The head. That's how you know this head that it's talking about is not a literal head covering. It's talking about power. It's talking about authority. Let's keep reading. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. That's powerful. It takes a virtuous woman to understand and accept that. The man was created for the neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. In today's time, you have men going a marriage, a lifetime of marriage, trying to fulfill all the woman's needs. But we just read that you wasn't created for the woman. She's created for you and all of your needs. This is why women can never find happiness, because they always out of position or out of place, and they're trying to do something or receive something that is not the way it's supposed to be. Does this mean you can't show your woman love? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you can't be romantic if you want to be. I'm not saying you can't show your woman any type of emotional needs that's necessary. Like, that's not what we're speaking of. But you don't live your life for your woman. You live in your life for the service of God. She's living her life for the service of you. In the mix of all that, of course, y'all gonna make sure the other person is happy and good and get what they need. But ultimately, you have a task and she has a task. Her task is you. All right. Here we go. Verse 10 to sum up this whole power over the head thing. For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. So you tying a scarf around your head, that's not power. There's no power in a scarf that you're tying over your head. The power is in the authority. That's what power is, authority. You're supposed to be up under somebody's authority because of the angels. Why I say that? Because that angel in the garden, when you step out of your authority, Eve, he got you. But as long as you stay up under that authority and covering of a man, the man is your covering, he is your head. If you stay up under that, you are good because you are in your rightful position and operating as a virtuous woman. All right, let's get Proverbs 21 and 9. Proverbs 21 and 9. All right. It is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with the brawling woman in a wide house. So I don't care how big that house is. If you went there with her, I don't care how wide it is, as the scriptures say, you'd be better off to be on the top of the house and away from her than to be in that house with her when she's got to the point that she's a brawling woman. See, we understand that this is not virtuous. We know that. But now we understand as men why it's important to push her and teach her to be virtuous, because when she becomes this, it's very, very, very crazy for you to have to live in this situation now when he telling you it's better for you to be on top of the house than with a brawling woman. We're going to drop down to verse 19, 21 and 19. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. So once you have pissed your wife off, once she is angry, don't expect for her to be virtuous then. It's better for you to be in the wilderness, which is a desert. It's better for you to be in a desert than to be in there with a contentious and angry woman. Because all that the Most High has filled her with passion and desire for you has now been replaced with rage. And when a woman got that rage, I wouldn't want nothing to do with that. But what I want to do is teach her how to be virtuous, help her deal with whatever problem she's having, so it never comes to that. Because you don't want to be living with a woman that's got all this going on in her head, because she's so far away from your subjection now. It's easy for Satan to get to her now because her head is so far. I don't care how many scars she tie on her head. Then that's how you know it ain't got nothing to do with no daggone tying something over your head. She get ready. If you ain't with the program, once she is at that point of rage, I don't care what she got on her head. She coming for you. Proverbs 14 and 1. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. So a wise woman is going to build her house up, and a foolish woman is going to pluck it down with her hands. That's the difference. If you're wise, you'll see it because you'll be building a family. You'll see the kids happy. You'll see the husband happy. You'll be happy. And y'all will build on that because that is a foundation, right? You build a house with the foundation first. That's why it's talking about the woman and building the house. But then it says the foolish woman will pluck it down. So a foolish woman is going to be doing stuff to tear her family apart. So we understand the difference. Proverbs 31 and 3. Now we're going to finish it up with the virtuous woman. Benny, that's what the lesson is, a virtuous woman. Proverbs 31 and 3. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. So a woman has the power to destroy a king. Now we read scriptures. We seen Samson, Delilah. We seen all types of stuff where a woman can have certain influence or certain power on her husband. This is why, as a husband, you don't give your strength to her. What is your strength? Your power, right? What do we just read? That the man has to be the power over her head. If you give her the power and she over your head, what you think finna happen? Drop down to verse 10. I mean, that's simple. Who can find a virtuous woman? That's the question for the day. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. So it's nothing greater, nothing more valuable than a precious woman except for eternal life. The heart of her husband do safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. If your heart can't safely trust your woman, She may not be at the point of being virtuous yet. So you got some work to do, husband, because it's your job to get her there. Now, I know that's not something everybody want to hear, but it's the truth because that's what we just read. I'm going to read it again. The heart of her husband do safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She would do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. So this whole thing that people teach back in the day, this is the Bible days, a man go and do all the work and a woman just sit home with the kids. Where is that at? Because what we read in here, a virtuous woman, son like to me, she out here helping that man with everything that he's doing, everything that's going on. She's a part of it. If he got sheep, she's out there getting the wool and the flax. If he got food, I don't care if he's just trading, whatever it is, she's a part of it. Then it says she considered the field and buyeth it. So now she's a businesswoman as well. With the fruit of her hands, she planted the vineyard. Now we always talk about a farmer, and a farmer is a husbandman according to scripture. But what about this? See what it is, even though her husband may be the farmer getting the credit for things, look at who's working. Look who's doing it. She girded her loins with strength and strengthened her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. So just because it's nighttime, it's time to go to bed, don't mean her work is done. She's staying up. She's no understanding. It's always work to do. But the greatest thing about this to understand is this work that she has to do is for her husband, because she understands his work is for the kingdom. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the staff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household are clothed with scarlet. So basically, she's in preparation mode. She's making sure things is taken care of well in advance. Okay, she's out here doing business. She's out here in the field. She's in the house late night, making sure everybody got what they need. 22. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple, representing royalty. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. So her husband is going out there dealing with the elders. I don't know if they're studying. I don't know what they're doing. But whatever it is, he is well known because of his wife. People know the works of his wife, so they know your house in order, man. Hey, look, what are you doing? Tell us. We need the secret, man. That's basically what's going on, because they could see through her works, or they could hear about her works. Like, look, man, you got a good woman. She maketh fine linen and sell it, and deliver girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. So she's not doing this so she can rejoice right now, meaning she's not doing this for herself. This is for her family, for her husband, because she is a true virtuous woman. She know her time will come. This is why I say, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. What is the law of kindness? Basically, treat people how you want to be treated. And that's how she's talking, and that's how she's walking. People can see these things. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. So if your husband not praising you and speaking good about you, step it up. Men, if your wife is doing these type of things and you overlooking it, don't be mad if she stopped, because you're not doing your part. Is not the worker worthy of their wages? So, hey, look, you got to sometimes Let her know that you see and recognize the things she's doing. This is why I say, and he praised her. Her children rise up and call her blessed. They know, like even the kids know, mommy is blessed. Many daughters have done virtuously. So you got a lot of women out there that have done some virtuous things. They have done virtuously, but thou, this virtuous woman, but thou excellest them all. Why? Because she's consistent. She didn't just do some virtuously. She is consistently virtuous. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So she's being appreciated, recognized, and praised by the fruit of her hands and her own works. And she know that her time to come is going to come, whether it's now or whether it's in the kingdom. Because the same thing is what we teach with the men, right? With the brothers. Listen, you do this work for the Most High. You might not get your reward here, but it's coming. But it's the same thing for the wife. You do your work for your husband and your kids, basically for your household, and you become a virtuous woman and you be that consistently, you may or may not get it here, but for sure, when the Lord bring down your reward, you'll have your portion. So that is the lesson for the women. Be that virtuous woman that you are called to be. Every woman born is born to be a virtuous woman if you're born because you're born a woman. And he calling everybody to be righteous, virtuous, set apart. So whether you be single or whether you be married, you find out what the Lord requires of you from either one, and you become that. That is the lesson. Hope somebody got something from it. Thank you for your time.